currently we are in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. Reading from the King James Bible first, quote, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself." Unquote. Now let's compare this to the English Standard Version. Quote, "But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself." Unquote. And let's compare it to the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, "And Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not pollute himself with the king's portion of food, and with the wine of his drinking, and he seeketh of the chief of the eunuchs that he may not pollute himself." Unquote. Now remember to notice the differences that you see when you're reading the different versions that are worthy to be studied. In the King James and the ESV, they say the prince of the eunuchs. But in the Young's Literal, he says chief of the eunuchs. Now, as we go along, let's see what happens as we look at the parsing of the Hebrew as we discuss it in English to see what we can draw out from this. Now, as we're looking at the parsing of this verse, it is important to take a complete look at this. Like in the King James Version, it started out as "but Daniel." And then when you look at it, did Daniel write this any other time when he puts "but Daniel"? And when you do so, you're led to this verse and Daniel 2:49. Quote, "Then Daniel requested the king, and he sat Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king." Unquote. But when you go back and you look at this, in the literal, it does not say, "but Daniel." This Hebrew word is Daniel. It's not "but Daniel." This was set up so that the English translation allows you to see what's going on. So this is not something that we want to look at. We want to look at this literally. Daniel. So now we know that Daniel, of course, is many times in this book. So this "but Daniel" is an interpretation. So we're going to ignore that and continue. But Daniel purposed. So let's parse out this purpose. It's a quell stem, which is frequently used in a verb pattern, expresses a simple casual action. It's an imperfect aspect, which expresses an action or process or condition which is incomplete and has a wide range of meaning. So, he purposed. Not complete, but he has purposed. In his heart. Now, does Daniel use the phrase "in his heart" any place else in the Hebrew so we can get an understanding of this? And in fact, he does. We see that Daniel does use this again in Daniel 8, verse 25. Quote, "And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand." Unquote. So we can see that Daniel is talking about someone making a decision even to the core of their being in their heart. And it also relates this way many times in the Old Testament, the same identical way. So we're going to continue on. In his heart, that he would not defile. Okay, when we parse this out, that he would not defile, it means to desecrate, to pollute himself. So when you look at the parsing, the stem is a hepaphel. The aspect is imperfect. So what this means is that we have a reflective action. So in other words, he would not defile himself, is what this means. And that it's an imperfect, that it's not complete yet. So let's continue on. He would not defile himself with the portion. Continuing on, that he would not defile himself with the portion. So we have Daniel not wanting to be defiled or polluted with the portion of the king's meat. Now, when you look at the definition of meat, it's talking about delicacies, what the king himself ate, and so is providing for these guys to eat off his table. Nor with the wine, and literally that does mean wine, which he drank. Therefore he requested. Now, requested is a PL stem, which means that he's expressing an intensive or intentional action that is an imperfect aspect, so it's not complete yet. Therefore he requested intentionally of the prince of the eunuch. So in other words, the chief of the eunuch, the prince of the eunuchs, that he might not defile. Now we parse out that he might not defile, and again, it is a hep PL stem, which is a reflective action. So he that might not defile himself. It's an imperfect, so it's not complete yet. It's an imperfect aspect, so it's not complete. But that he does not, defile himself. Now, a lot of these phrases were used by Daniel uniquely in this verse, but not all. So what is going on here with this verse? Why has Daniel purposed in his heart intentionally not to eat and be defiled by the king's meat, the delicacies, and the wine that is put before them? Well, when you look at what's going on here, the food might be pork, it might not be. It might be offered with the blood, not thoroughly cooked, which would be offensive and against Moses' law. It might be food that is offered to their idols first and blessed in the idol's name, and that would have been a defilement, something against his conscience that he was brought up to not do, not to accept these things. He has obviously seen the destruction of Israel from the excesses that went on of sin, sometimes maybe caused from drinking. And so Daniel has purpose in his heart not to drink because he doesn't want to fall into the lapses of what he might have seen. We do not know. It is not given to us here. We can only speculate. But we do know that it was custom to offer meats to the idols and then have blessed in the idols' names and then giving out to eat. That part we do know. We do know that Daniel has seen this thing going on. He knows what's happening, and it has turned him off. And so he has purposed intentionally in his heart that he is not going to do this. Now this could cost him his life. He's asking to go against the king's wishes. This could definitely cost him his life. And yet he stood up and asked the chief, the prince of the eunuchs, that he might not do this. Very bold move for someone who's been brought into Babylon after being taken away hostage from his homeland to this place here. Very bold. But yet Daniel purposed in his heart and asked. Now we'll go on and see why Daniel has included this in his book and what is so important about this. May God richly bless you as you go on your way studying these scriptures. Thank you for listening to Discovering the Scriptures. Please go below and subscribe. Hit the little bell if you want to be notified when there are more. We're going to pick up the pace and offer more scripture each day as God gives me strength and health to do so. God bless you.